small limit. Thank God I finally got an effing limit.
Run away. 1170. Come on, Sean. 1176.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thought I'd give a little recap of the highlights of the Solo Pro Championship on Lake of the Ozarks here from a couple weeks ago. So it was a tough event, but it was a culmination of fishing the Solo Pro Series all year long. There was 10 of us that ended up fishing the no entry fee championship there out of Larry Gale on the Niangle arm of Lake of the Ozarks. So I had a good time that weekend. A couple of the strategies that I was working on. The first day of practice on the Thursday, my buddy Mark Dunbar and I, we found a few buzzbait fish in the Osage River arm here a couple weeks prior to that. Just fishing buzzbaits in the backs of pockets there the first hour of the day, first light when the bigger fish were up there feeding. And so I started the day on Thursday just throwing buzzbaits in some pockets and on some secondary points there in the Niangle arm. Had one good blow up, caught one nice one about 3 pounds. That was the best one, and a couple other shorts, and that was it. I hit a bunch of flat pockets and flat cove back ends where I could find a few shad, but I only caught little guys back there doing that. So that didn't work out all that well for practice, other than the one good one and the one blow up. So from there, of course, with my jet, I wanted to get up the river a good ways there. So I went all the way up the Big Niangua. I went way up past where the docks end, way up into the river up there, and really thought that was going to be my strategy for success for the weekend. Lake of the Ozarks had been just absolutely hammered between the Toyota Series and the Big Bass Bash. And that same weekend, we had our Solo Pro Championship. You had a Warrior William event and an AFTCO big $10,000 tournament on Saturday and Sunday as well. So the lake's just been pounded. And I thought, well, if I get way up the Big Niangle in my jet, I can get away from the crowds a little bit, maybe have some fish that aren't so pressured. Sounded good in theory again, but I only caught, I think, 2 back there, 2 keepers. And I spent 4 or 5 hours back up in there on Thursday. Caught one nice 14-inch spot on a top water on a little popar on a little flat with a log on it. Got a little bit excited because that was right off the bat, but then I spent another, fish for another 2 or 3 miles up that stretch and only had one other small keeper, and that was it. And so by the end of the day there, I was a little disappointed in day one of practice. It just wasn't working all that well. So that was Thursday's practice. For Friday, I put back in at Larry Gale. And I decided to run some shallow docks and flipping docks, which honestly, I'm not that good at. I don't like doing it, but I forced myself to flip some docks, and I got a couple bites doing that, felt okay about it. And I went back to one of my old favorite patterns from 20 years ago when I was with the Camden Castaways, and that's throwing these little bitty Norman's Deep Tiny and these little crappie crankbaits on the dock corners, on the wind-blown corners of the docks, catching those suspended fish on the dock foam. It's a little fish pattern, but you can occasionally get some good ones and some keepers there, and it's a good way to catch a lot of fish and have fun, and you maybe even ride out a limit if you can find some bigger ones. So I did those 2 things on Friday, ended up having just enough bites there to make me give that a try for the tournament on Saturday, and that was kind of my strategy, was to flip docks early and then go run the crankbait on the dock foam on the dock corners in the afternoon when the sun got a little brighter. So that was kind of the game plan going into the weekend. Started off on Saturday flipping some docks. Didn't run too far from Larry Gale. Went and flipped some docks and caught that one good one. It was a 4. Relatively early in the morning. I was feeling pretty good about things. Unfortunately, I couldn't duplicate it. There was probably another 7 or 8 boats in the general area where I was at. Everybody had the same idea I did, apparently. And so you'd have about 5 or 6 stretches of docks to yourself, and there was somebody behind you and somebody in front of you, and that's just to be expected anymore on Lake of the Ozarks. So yeah, that didn't work out all that well. But what I was flipping was this Bojangles smoke pole. It's been a very popular bait on Lake of the Ozarks this fall on more of a lighter weight head, just kind of flipping it trying to skip it back underneath the foam and get back in there in the shady spots. Yeah, caught that one good one doing that. That 4-something Saturday morning, but then I spent another 3 or 4 hours doing that and nothing. So I had to default to my little crankbait pattern, and this actually probably is what saved the tournament for me on Saturday, not necessarily Sunday, was I was able to finish out my limit on this. I caught 2 more largemouths on some bluff docks with a little bit of shad around them and some wind blowing in on it, and then 2 more spots. And I had like 11.5 pounds on Saturday when it was all said and done, but it was enough to keep me in the top 3. I think I was sitting in 3rd after day 1. Chris Dick Herbert was in 1st. Mikey Hamilton was in 2nd with 12 and 11 3/4, something like that, respectively. So that kept me in the hunt on day 1. So going into day 2, the plan was kind of repeat the same thing. Flip those docks early in the morning with those fish hopefully up, active and feeding. And then I was basically going to just chase the wind. Because this pattern here, this little, the dock corner pattern, the windy side of the docks works better in the wind and the shade where they position to feed on the outside edge there for those shad balls and those shad schools that are out kind of on the in front of the docks or around the sides, and those little balls of shad that swim around there. So that was the game plan on Sunday, just trying to bring in another limit here just to have a fighting chance for the win. As it turns out, Sunday ended up being a better flipping day than it was a crankbait day. So I hit some shallow docks again on Sunday. I actually ended up catching all 4 of my keepers, and the only 4 keepers I had by about 9:30 on Sunday morning, including one good, the big bass of the weekend, that 490, flipping shallow docks. And it was the same thing, just flipping this little, Bojangles smoke pole. I couldn't get bit on a jig. I couldn't get bit. What else I tried? Tube a little bit. For whatever reason, this is what they wanted, so that's what I worked. Color didn't seem to make that much of a difference. This is kind of an electric plum. That's what we used to call it anyway. Kind of purple with some blue and different colored flake in it. And I had a black one with some blue flaky in there too. It didn't seem to make much of a difference. My buddy Jeff Hoots let me borrow a bag because I was out, so he let me borrow a bag of some leftovers that helped me out. So thank you, Jeff, for that. And so that's what I pretty much did Sunday morning, and I was really feeling good about things, especially with that kicker right off the bat Sunday morning. Like, okay, here we go. Just finish out one more, and you have a good chance to make a run at the championship. So by 9:30, I had my limit, was feeling good about things, and then I caught 3 off of one little stretch, and then I had another similar stretch just like that. I caught my kicker there, and this is me not knowing the lake as well as I should. I kind of run out of areas where it matched the pattern that I was looking for. And if I'd have known the lake better and known the docks better, if I'd fished the docks more, I'd have known where there were some other docks like that, but I couldn't find exactly what I was looking for with those shallow docks that I thought had some fish on them. So I tried a couple, 4 or 5 other areas that were similar to that, and nothing. And by then it was getting kind of midday or so. I'm like, you know what, just finish out your limit, pick up your crankbait, finish out your limit, bring in 5 and take your chances. And I'll be darned if the wind didn't blow on Sunday, and they would not bite the crankbait at all. I mean, I could not get bit in the areas where I had 2 docks where I finished my limit on Saturday where they were schooled up. Threw this in there and this little blue chrome version of it in there on Saturday and caught lots of fish. I mean, like 30 or 40 little guys, and then enough keepers to make it interesting. Went back there on Sunday, nothing. No fish out of those 2 docks whatsoever, and I was kind of like, oh crap. And I fished a bunch of other docks where I could try and find some wind or even some wave traffic. Sometimes the big wave traffic can be an advantage if there's no wind. It kind of acts the same way, kind of stirs those fish up and gets them a little bit more active on the edges of the docks, and that didn't work. I even found some wave breaks at the mouth of the Little Niangua, and they were smaller ones there. Fished those and caught some little guys, just trying to get a 12-inch spot to finish my limit, just to bring in 5. And I could catch 12, 13-inch largemouths, but not the spots. So anyway, grinded and went back to flipping docks at the end of the day, just trying to think maybe that high sun and the shaded position back in those little dark shady corners, and nothing. They just shut down for me about 9:30 on Sunday. Could not buy another fish. So ended up only bringing in 4 on Sunday, and Chris, who was leading it, brought in another limit. I asked him how he did. He's like, I got 5 squeakers. I thought, well, okay. He's probably got it, but I'll be darned. By literally a couple ounces, I ended up having just enough with the 4 fish I had to get the win. So pretty happy about that all in all. You know, I had a great time fishing against Mike and Chris and Nalon. I kind of hate that for Chris because he's due for another win here. It's been a couple of years since he had his, I think he had a top 10 elite win. But, you know, we battled it out. Mikey had third. Mikey let up on us. He's been dominant all fall, but he had a couple of big ones come off. I think that's what helped me out there. He had a little bit of my luck on Truman here for this championship. But anyway, I'll take it. You know, it wasn't a big weight. It was 23 pounds even over 2 days, which is not going to win you a big tournament. I know that. But it was enough for this one against some good competition, so I'm happy with it. Yeah, so when the dust settled, you know, I was able to get the big bass for the weekend with the 490, which was $250, and then the first place trophy for the Solo Pro Championship for this year. So it was awesome. I'm happy with it. I'll sure take it. And one of the cool things that we did, and I applaud Russ for this, Russ McBurney, the tournament director, is we all agreed as anglers on the pre-tournament meeting on Saturday morning. Since there was only 10 of us fishing, we treated it almost like a top 10 elite event versus a championship. And by that, I mean everybody's going to get paid something. We had X amount of dollars for the championship set aside that we contributed to all year long. And rather than just paying 2 places, it's one for every 4 boats or every 5 boats, something like that. We agreed to treat it like a top 10 elite where everybody got something. So 6 through 10 got at least $400, and then 5 up to 1 got incremental payouts as well. So, you know, payout for first was $1,500, big bass was $250, so overall $1,750 for the weekend. But everybody got something, so nobody went home empty-handed. So, and that's for a no entry fee championship. So, it was a good deal. That way, everybody. You know, we fished for fun. We took it a little bit serious, but it was just for fun as well, to where everybody had a chance to take home something after a long year. So, applaud Russ for that. So, anyway, that's the highlights from the Lake of the Ozarks Derby. I didn't get all my fish on video, but I got most of them. So, whatever I didn't share for B-roll here, I'll kind of play at the end here. It's just some highlights from the weekend. But overall, a great time. Thanks to Mike and Chris and Nalon for cutting me some slack and letting me work hard to get this one. But anyway, that kind of wraps up the 2025 season for the most part. I did fish a little fun freshwater FX solo on Mark Twain the weekend after. I didn't even record. I knew going in there was going to be tough for me, and sure enough it was. But Mikey did a great job on that one. So really the next event is not until December for the 2026 kickoff event for the Solo Series Top 100 on Truman, December 7th. And so I'm ready for a little break. Going to do some deer hunting. Got some stands set up here a couple of days ago. At some point I'm looking at a different boat. I'm not ready to pull a trigger just yet. I'm looking at some different options, but either way, going to take a little break for a couple of weeks and then get back at it in time for the Solo Series Top 100 on Truman in December. So thanks for watching, everybody.